In this video, we are going to discuss about built-in exceptions in Python programming. Built-in exceptions are nothing but predefined exceptions. So those exceptions were already defined. For here, exception is the base class. Exception is the base class. For all these built-in exceptions, we have 10 exceptions are there. First one is attribute error, second one is assertion error, third one is file not found error, fourth one is index error, fifth one is key error, sixth one is module not found error, seventh one is name error, eighth one is type error, ninth one is value error, 10th one is zero not found error. We know that exception means a runtime error which will occurs during the program execution. So whenever exception occurs, then the remaining statements in the program are not executed. The program will get abnormal termination. We will handle exceptions mainly by using two keywords. First one is try, second one is except. Try contains a list of statements that may cause an exception, whereas except contains a list of statements that handles the exception. Now let us see all these exceptions one by one. The first one is attribute error. So attribute is nothing but member of a class. Member of a class. Attribute error will be raised if an object is trying to access an attribute. Attribute is nothing but member of the class. An attribute which doesn't exist. Now let us see an example for this one. Example 1. Class. Let name of the class is a demo. Let it contains an attribute called A. Let A value is 10. Now let us create an object. Obj is equal to demo. Obj is equal to demo. Now let us display A value. So print of obj.a. So whenever this program is executed, then what will happen? What is A value? 10. So we will get 10 as the output. Let us write one more statement. So print of within the double quotations rest of the program. So we will get output as 10, and in the next line rest of the program will get printed. Instead of A, let us assume that we accessed B. So print of obj.b. But here B is not an attribute of the class. Here only we have A. Now we will get the error message as here the output is attribute error. So this is about what is attribute error. So when attribute error will be generated, if an object is trying to access an attribute which doesn't exist. So rest of the program, the remaining statements in the program are not going to be executed. Why? Because here whenever the statement is executed, then this attribute error exception will be generated. So the remaining statements are not going to be executed. So now we have to handle the exception with the help of try and catch. Now let us handle the exception. Here we got the error message because of the statement print of obj.b. So now we have to place obj.b in try block. Why? Because try block contains list of statements that generates an exception. So try print of obj.b. Here the statement got an exception. So whenever an exception is raised, then the control that exception will be thrown to the except block. Except colon. Here we can display some message. Except print of exception handled. Let the last statement of the program is print of rest of the program. So print of rest of the program. So now what is the output for this program? So first, class A is equal to 10, object is created. Try print of obj.b. Here object is trying to access an attribute which doesn't exist. So it throws an exception. So that exception will be thrown to the except block. So what is except block? Exception handled. So that message will be printed, and after that the rest of the program is going to be executed. Okay. So that is the output. Here instead of that we can write as, after the except we can write as attribute error. Why? Because we know the exception name, error name, attribute error, print of, just we can display some message according to our choice. Attribute B doesn't exist. Attribute B doesn't exist. And the next statement is print of rest of the program. Rest of program. So whenever try block is executed, then it will throws an attribute error exception. So that will be thrown to the except block. So attribute error. So now this except block will get executed. Attribute B doesn't exist, and rest of the program. Rest of the program. So we can handle the exception only by using except or by specifying the error after the except. Here if we want, we know that exception is the base class for all these exceptions. So all these exceptions are derived from this class. So we can write as except exception as E. If you don't know what is that exception that we need to handle, then we can write as exception as E. Then here E is nothing but some reference. So we can display that reference, print of E. Now what will happen is, here that exception message will be thrown to this E reference. Okay. So what is E now? Here E means demo object has no attribute B. Demo object has no attribute B. So that message will be printed, and after that rest of the program will get printed. So we can write except by using these three ways. So what is the first way? First way is just write except, and in the except block display some message. And the second way is except, after except display the corresponding exception class. Attribute error, assertion error, index error. Likewise we have several exceptions are there. And what is the third way? Except space exception space as space E. Okay. So print of, here we need to display this E. So we can handle the exception in these three ways. Okay. In the implementation we will discuss all these three ways. In the next examples we are going to see the first approach, except colon, because that is the simplest approach. And let us see the second type of error. The second type of exception is assertion error. So A and E are uppercase letters, remaining all are lowercase letters. Let us see the syntax for the assert statement. Assert space condition comma within the double quotations error message. Error message. So this is the syntax for assert. So first condition will be evaluated. If the condition is true, then the rest of the program will get executed. Whereas if the condition is false, then the program execution will be stopped and it returns assertion error with error message. So when it will returns the assertion error, whenever the condition is false, then the program execution will get stopped and it returns assertion error with the error message. So whenever the condition is false, then only it will returns the message. Now let us see an example for this. Example, A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0, B is equal to 0. Next, assert. What is the syntax? Some condition, we have to write some condition. Let the condition is B not equal to 0, comma, within the double quotations, some error message. Here the error message is something like this. Invalid operation. Invalid operation. Let the next statement is a print of rest of the code. Rest of program. Rest of program. And before that, if you want, we can display some message also. Yeah, rest of program. This is enough. Rest of program. Rest of program. So now what will happen? A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0. Print B not equal to 0. B not equal to 0. But what is B value? 0. 0 is not equal to 0. Condition is false. So whenever the condition is false, then what will happen? The program execution will get stopped and it will returns assertion error with this message. So we will get output as assertion error colon. What is the message we passed? Invalid operation. And the program will get abnormal termination. So remaining statements are not going to be executed. So now we have to handle the exception. So how to handle the exception? So A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0, try colon, assert B not equal to 0, assert B not equal to 0, comma, invalid operation, next except. So whenever an exception is generated, then that exception will be thrown to the except block. So here write the message. So print of exception handled. Next print of rest of the code, rest of program. So what is the output for this program? Assert B not equal to 0. But what is B value? 0. 0 not equal to 0. Condition is false. So what will happen? Whenever the condition is false, here the condition is false. So it will throws assertion error message. So now the control will goes to the except block. Except. So this message will get printed, exception handled, and after that rest of the program will get displayed. Okay. Now let us see the next one, that is file not found error. File not found error. File not found error is raised if file is not available. Okay. If you are trying to perform an operation on an invalid file, a file which doesn't exist. So let us write the syntax. Let us open the file. fp is equal to open of. Let abc.txt is not there in the system, comma, mode of the file. Here we have to open the file in read mode. Why? Because if you open the file in write mode, then if no file exists with this name, then a new file will be created if you open the file in write mode. So that's why we have to open the file in read mode. Let us display some message. So print of fp.read. Here we are trying to read the content of a non-existent file. So it will throws what? File not found error. abc.txt. No such file or directory. Okay. Now we have to handle the exception. So how to handle the exception? So we need to place that statement fp.read in try block. And here we have to write except block. In except block, we can write the message as exception handled and then rest of the program. Okay. So handling the exception is very, very simple, in the same way as assertion attribute. And the next one is index error. Here this exception will be raised if we try to access an index which is out of the range. Let we have a list like this. So L is equal to, so this is our list. So within the square brackets 10, 20, 30. So now we can access only 3 elements, L of 0, L of 1, L of 2. But I am trying to access L of 3. Is it possible to access L of 3? No. So now it will generate what? Index error. Let the next line is rest of the code. So this message won't get printed. So whenever the statement is L of 3, so instead of L of 3, let us use L of 5. So L of 5 is not here. L of 3 is also not there. We can access only L of 0, L of 1, L of 2. Okay. So L of 5 is not there. So it will throws what? Index error. Exception. Okay. And this message, rest of the program won't get executed. So we have to handle the exception with the help of try and catch, that we will see in implementation part. Now let us see the next one, that is key error. Key error means if we try to access a key which doesn't present in the directory, then key error exception will be generated. So key error exception is mainly generated while accessing a key which doesn't exist in the directory. Let us create a directory. So D is equal to, within the curly braces, let name is Mahesh. We know that directory means we have to use curly braces and they are separated by key and value. Mahesh is key. Let marks 90 is value. Next key value pair is Ramesh and value is 80. So print of, if we give D of Mahesh, then we will get output as 90. But here instead of Mahesh Naresh, just we given Naresh. So print of D of Naresh. This key is not present in the directory. So it will throws key error exception. Now we have to handle that exception with the help of try and except that we will see in the implementation part, just like the previous ones. And the next one is module not found error. Module not found error. Module not found error. If we try to import a module which doesn't exist, then module not found error exception will be thrown. Okay. Let here just we have written a statement like this. Import Sudhakar. So this module is not available. This module doesn't exist. So now Python interpreter will throw module not found error exception. So we have to handle the exception with the help of the try and except, just like the previous one. And the next one is name error. Next one is name error. Name means identifier. So this exception will be raised if we try to access a name, if we try to access an identifier which doesn't exist. So let we have two identifiers. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. Next to print of A comma B comma C. But this C, this name doesn't exist. This name doesn't exist. But we are trying to access this name. So that's why Python interpreter will throw name error exception. So for that we have to handle the exception by using with try and except. And the next one is type error. Next one is type error. So type error exception. Type error will be generated if we try to perform operations on unsupported data types. So the result of 2 plus 3 is 5. The result of Ram plus Babu is Ram Babu. But if we try to add a number and a string, that is not possible. So in the type of occasion, interpreter will throw type error message, type error exception. So print of 2 plus, let the statement is Ram, 2 plus Ram. It is not possible. It is not possible to perform addition on a number and a string. Okay. So that's why Python interpreter will throw type error exception. So we have to handle the exception now. Let us see that in the implementation part. And the next one is value error. Value error. So value error means if we try to perform mistypecasting on a particular data, on a particular value, then it will throw value error message. Okay. Let here we have a statement called A is equal to hello. A is equal to hello. Now A contains a string. It is not possible to convert that string into a number. But I want to convert, we have written a statement like this. Int of A. So converting string to integer, a number, that is not possible. So in the type of occasion, Python interpreter will throw value error exception. And the last one is 0 not found error. 0 not found error. So this exception will be thrown while performing the division operation. If the denominator value, if the second argument is 0, division by 0, then it will throw that exception. Let the statement is like this. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0, print of A comma B. Then the interpreter will throw 0 not found error. Okay. Now let us see the practical implementation. So first error is attribute error. So class demo, A is equal to 10. Let us create an object, obj is equal to demo. Next, let us print A value first, obj dot A. Let us save the program. Yeah, do you want to replace it? Yes. So let us run the program. So we got error, we got output as 10. Now instead of A, let us access B. So print of obj dot B. Let us display one more statement. Rest of the program. Now let us save the program. Control S. Let us run it. So we got error as attribute error. We got exception as attribute error. Why? Because demo object has no attribute B. Demo object has no attribute B. So the remaining statements are not going to be executed. So rest of the program, the statement is not executed. Now we have to handle the exception so that remaining statements will also get executed. We have to follow the indentation. So try next except. So let us display some message. Print exception handled. Exception handled. Now let us see the output. So what is the output now? We have an exception in the try block. So control goes to the except. So exception handled will get printed, and after that rest of the program will get printed. Exception handled and rest of the program. If we observe the previous output, the rest of the program won't get printed. Why? Because whenever an exception is generated, then the program will get abnormal termination. So the remaining statements are not executed. Or instead of this, after except, we can write as attribute error. We know the type of the exception, attribute error. Except attribute error and some message. Let us run the program. So we got the output as exception handled, rest of the program. If we don't know the type of the exception that is thrown, then we have to use exception class. This exception is the base class. Exception is the base class. So exception as E. Now we can display that E, that reference. So print of E. So whenever an exception generated in the try, then that exception will be thrown to the except. Now this message will get printed. Demo object has no attribute B. Demo object has no attribute B, and then rest of the program will get executed. Okay. So likewise we can handle by using these three approaches: except colon or except, and after that name of the error, or we can use except class. Okay. Now let us see the next one. So the next type of exception is assertion error. Assertion error. So for assertion error, let us write the program. A is equal to 1, B is equal to C. Let us write assert statement. Assert, B not equal to 0. B not equal to 0. So comma. Let us display some message invalid operation. Invalid operation. Okay. And then write some statement. Print of rest of the program. So here the condition is false. B not equal to 0. But B value is 0. So what will happen? The program will get abnormal termination. So it will return assertion error with that message. So assertion error, invalid operation. Now we have to handle the exception. So because of assert statement, we got the exception. So let us place that statement in the try block. Now handle the exception. So except. So print of. Except print of. Here we can display any message according to our choice. Exception handled. Now let us run the program. Now we got exception handled as well as rest of the program. So in this way we can handle the exception. Now let us see the next one, that is file not found exception. So FP is equal to, let us open the file in read mode. Open of abc.txt is not exist in my system. Let us open the file in read mode, and let us display the message. So print of fp.read. So read the data from the file and display the content. But here the file doesn't exist, so it will throw file not found error. No such file or directory. Now how to handle the exception? Let us place this statement in try block, and except print of exception handled, and then the last statement is print of rest of the program. So let us copy these statements so that while handling the remaining exceptions, instead of typing, we can paste there. So Control C. Now let us save the program. Control S. F5. No such file. Let us see here. We got an error. So print of FP is equal to try print of fp.read. So except control S, let us save the program. Except print of exception handled, indentation is correct only. So print off rest of the program. Control S, let us run it. So we got error as no such file or directory. So here some mistake is there. So let us place this statement within the try only. So within the try block, let us place this statement. Control V, Control S, F5. So we got the exception message. So here we need to place the file pointer within the try block only. Now let us see the next one. So the next type of exception is index error. Index error. Let us create a list. So L is equal to 10, 20, 30. So print of L of 5. So L of 5 is not here. So it will throw index error. Index error. List index out of range. Now let us handle the exception. So we have to handle the exception by placing the body within the try and then catch except block. Control, except. So what is the message? Print of exception handled. Exception handled. Next one, print of rest of the code. So rest of the program. So now let us copy this code. Control C. Now let us save the program. Control S, F5. So we got the message exception handled, rest of the program. Next one is key error. So key error will be generated while accessing a key which doesn't exist. So D is equal to Ramesh. This is the key. Let Ramesh marks 90. Second one Mahesh. Let Mahesh marks 80. Yeah, we have to use curly braces, not square bracket. Insert we use just square bracket. So D is equal to within the curly braces. Next to print of D of within the double quotations Naresh. But Naresh key is not available in the directory. So it will throw that exception. Key not found error exception. Key error. So this exception is what? Key error. So now we have to handle the exception. So try block. Now let us write the except block. Control V, Control S, F5. So we got that exception messages. Exception handled, rest of the program. Now let us see the next one. The next one is module not found error. So when we are trying to import a module which doesn't exist, then it will throw module not found error exception. Import Atchala. So this module doesn't exist. So it will throw module not found error exception. Module not found error. Why? Because there is no module with the name Atchala. Now what we have to do? We have to place this statement within the try block. Why? Because of the statement we got the exception. Now let us write the catch block. Control V. Let us save the program. F5. Now we got the exception message. Exception handled, rest of the program. The next one is name error. So name error. So let A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. Print A comma B comma C. So here C doesn't exist, but we are trying to access C. So name error, that exception will be thrown. Now we have to handle the exception by placing a exception generated statement in try block and then exception handled statement in except and remaining statements. So we got the exception messages. Next one is name error is over. Next one is type error. So we will get type error while performing operations on unsupported data types. So 9 plus within the quotations high, but it is not possible to add a number and a string. So that's why we got the message type error. So likewise you can handle the exception. Next one is value error. So we will get value error while doing typecasting. A is equal to hello. Unsupported typecasting. it is not possible to convert that string into integer. So it will generate value error. And the last one is zero not found error. A is equal to 1, b is equal to 0, print of a by b, division by 0. So control S. So here the exception name is 0 division error and the message is division by 0. So this is about built-in exceptions or predefined exceptions.